Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Ilaria and today I will be sharing a true crime case that has really captured my attention. If you are interested, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. With that being said, let's get into today's case. Candace Tiara Elmore was born on November 19th, 1989 in Lincoln, a small town in North Carolina. Her life has been filled with struggles and pain from the very beginning. Her mother, Angela, was only 17 when Candace was born, and her father, Todd Elmore, 23 years old, was a troubled and violent man. The young family lived in difficult conditions, facing poverty, instability, and abuse. Details about Candace's early years are limited. It's clear that her childhood was far from happy. Candace and her siblings were taken from their parents by social services due to multiple warning signs of abuse and unsafe living conditions. The children were placed in foster care, an unfamiliar and impersonal setting that couldn't provide the warmth and security they needed. As time went on, Candace's parents lost custody, and the children remained in the foster care system, moving from one family to another without finding true stability. For Candace, these years were especially traumatic. Lacking a stable, loving environment deeply affected her emotional and psychological development. Despite her young age, Candace quickly learned not to trust adults. She grew increasingly closed off, finding it hard to form lasting connections or express her feelings openly. Finally, at age 5, Candace was adopted by Jane Elizabeth Newmaker, a single nurse in her 40s. Jane, who longed for a daughter, saw Candace as a chance to experience and give the maternal love she had always wanted. Jane was financially stable and well educated with a successful medical career. She lived in a comfortable home in a quiet, safe neighborhood and dedicated herself entirely to providing Candace with every opportunity for a normal life. Initially, things seemed to take a positive turn for Candace. Anne arranged for Candace to participate in swimming lessons and made efforts to give her a happy, active childhood. She organized events like birthday parties and sleepovers for Candace to enjoy with friends and encouraged her to try horseback riding and other fun activities. Jane's home was also filled with things that would make Candace feel comfortable and entertained, such as toys and books, showing that Jane tried to create a warm and supportive environment for her. Jane hopes that with time and her constant presence, Candace will be able to overcome her past traumas and build a happy life. However, despite all of Jane's efforts, Candace remains a shy, introverted, and often angry child. She avoids physical contact, rejects her adoptive mother's hugs and affection, and maintains a detached and suspicious attitude. These behaviors are likely a result of the traumas she experienced during her early years, including abuse and abandonment. Candace struggled to trust people, especially adults, and each attempt Jane makes to get closer seems to widen the gap between them. Candace has serious difficulty controlling her anger and goes through episodes of extreme violence. In one particularly dramatic incident, she starts a fire in the house, putting both their lives at risk. In another instance, she kills her goldfish, a gesture that leaves Jane increasingly overwhelmed by the situation. Desperate and unsure where to turn, Jane consults several psychologists and psychiatrists in the hope of finding a diagnosis and effective treatment for Candace's problems. However, despite numerous visits and medications, the situation does not improve. Experts diagnose Candace with reactive attachment disorder, a condition that often affects children who have been abused or abandoned at a young age. This disorder makes it hard for children to form emotional bonds with parents or caregivers and shows symptoms such as avoiding eye contact, cruelty toward animals, and lack of impulse control. Reactive attachment disorder is a complex and difficult condition to treat. Children affected by this disorder often have suffered deep trauma, and their ability to trust others and develop healthy relationships has been severely compromised. Candace shows all the signs of this condition. Her repressed anger, her inability to accept affection from her adoptive mother, and her violent outbursts are all symptoms of deep unresolved pain. After 4 years of failed attempts with traditional medicine, Jane decides to explore alternative paths. In early 2000, when Candace is about 10 years old, Jane learns about a therapist in Colorado who is said to specialize in treating reactive attachment disorder. The therapist, Connell Watkins, is known for practicing a controversial form of therapy called rebirthing. This technique, developed in the 1970s by Leonard Orr, aims to help people re-experience birth through specific breathing techniques, supposedly promoting mental and physical well-being, according to its proponents. Jane, overwhelmed by daily struggles and anxious to help her daughter overcome past traumas, decides to try this therapy. The therapy, which consists of an intensive 2-week session, costs $7,000, a significant amount that Jane is willing to pay in the hope of improving the situation. However, the price isn't the only risk involved in this therapy. When Jane and Candace arrive in Evergreen, a mountain town 30 miles from Denver, to start the therapy, Jane is convinced she has finally found a solution to her daughter's problems. The therapist, Connell Watkins, seems to understand Candace's symptoms and promises to be able to help her. However, after a few days of treatment, there is no improvement. Candace remains withdrawn and distant, and her anger seems to intensify. On April 17, 2000, Dr. John Alston, a psychiatrist in Evergreen, decides to change Candace's medication in the hope of seeing some positive results, but this attempt also proves futile. On April 18, 2000, Julie Ponder, the therapist's assistant, asks Candace to draw some objects and then proposes that she be reborn with her new mother. She explains that Candace will simulate a birth and that this experience will allow her to leave her past traumas behind and start a new life with Jane. Candace, tired and under the effect of medication, agrees, perhaps without fully understanding what awaits her. The child is wrapped in a sheet and covered with cushions to simulate the birth canal. 4 adults, including her adoptive mother, position themselves around her, pressing on the cushions to make the birth more challenging. The idea is that Candace must struggle to be born, overcoming the sensation of suffocation and thereby achieving a kind of psychological rebirth. But what happens is far from any concept of healing. Candace begins to complain, saying she can't breathe, and desperately pleading for help. Her words, recorded on video, later used as evidence in court, are heartbreaking. "I can't do it. I can't breathe. Please let me out. I'm dying." Despite her pleas, the therapist insists that she must fight to be reborn. They tell her not to give up, that she must fight to get out of the sheet, as if overcoming that suffering could magically resolve her traumas. After more than 30 minutes of suffocation, Candace stops responding. Her cries gradually fade away. leaving behind a silence heavy with the weight of the impending tragedy. When she is finally freed, she is already unconscious. Jane, who witnessed the entire scene without intervening, is in shock. Candace is rushed to the hospital, but it is too late. She is declared brain dead due to mechanical asphyxia, and a few days later she died. The video of the session, used as evidence during the trial, clearly shows that it was not an accident. The images are shocking, and the public is deeply affected by the brutality of what happened. The 5 adults involved are arrested and put on trial. The 2 therapists, Connell Watkins and Julie Ponder, are sentenced to 16 years in prison for manslaughter and child abuse. The assistants who participated in the act without objecting received probation and 1,000 hours of community service. Jane, who passively witnessed the tragedy without ever intervening to save her daughter, is sentenced to 4 years in prison for manslaughter. Her guilt, in the eyes of the judge and the public, lies in allowing her desperation and desire to help Candace to lead her to participate in such a dangerous and poorly conceived therapy. The death of this child marks a turning point in the regulation of therapeutic practices in the United States. The rebirthing therapy, already controversial before this tragic event, is banned in many jurisdictions. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more content. Bye!